Topic. If I say something wrong, if you feel that it's not my place to speak on this, if I offend you in some way, in advance, I am sorry. So here I go. The first thing I want to address, not only because it genuinely hurts me and the public at large, but also seems to be a topic of great disagreement and tension, is the debate between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. The argument here is stemming from the fact that a lot of people, mostly white people, are offended by this. Somehow people are taking the movement Black Lives Matter and reading it as Black Lives Matter, white lives don't. Maybe white people don't need a movement. At some point, we need to realize that a lot of these deaths are systemic and biased. Nobody's trying to tell you that white people also haven't been killed by officers, and nobody's trying to tell you that Black people haven't also killed white people. But there does need to be awareness raised that if not racism, then at least a very deep-rooted prejudice still runs very deep in this country. If you don't agree with me, I'm willing to bet that there's a pretty solid chance that you're white. And that's not necessarily your fault for being uninformed. I was ignorant for a really, really long time. I grew up in a town that was extremely sheltered from the rest of the world, incredibly racist. And while I never hated Black people or other races or identified as racist, I'm able now to look in hindsight at myself and realize that I was raised to believe certain things about certain races. As most of us probably were. But it is really important that if you are not a minority, that you check your white privilege. And this is the most important part of the video and the part that I really hope that you remember. I, not even that long ago, was very offended when people accused me of having white privilege. I grew up very poor. I was the only white kid on my school bus, and every single day I was bullied. I had no connections, no money, no important last name. Nobody ever handed me anything. I worked really, really hard, and I made something of myself. And I felt that none of that had to do with the fact that I was white. I truly believed that my skin color had 0% to do with any of my accomplishments, and that there was absolutely no way that white privilege had any hand in my success. Then one day I found an article entitled "Explaining White Privilege to a Broke White Person," and the author was recommended the book White Privilege: Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. And I would like to just read a little excerpt from that. I can turn on the television or open to the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented. When I am told about our national heritage or about civilization, I am shown that people my color made it what it is. If a traffic cop pulls me over, or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. So then I started Googling more articles and taking quizzes, and I started realizing a lot of things that I've always taken for granted. My parents never had to teach me to not wear a hoodie in public. I have never been worried that I was being followed by a security guard in a store. When I approach somebody in a store or on the street or in a school, I am seen as a wholesome white girl and not a threat. I have never, and probably will never, have the words hooligan or thug used to describe me. People don't fear me for no reason. And I know for a fact that if my boyfriend was shot 4 times point blank in front of my 4-year-old daughter after following an officer's orders, that I would not feel obliged or conditioned to call his shooter sir. The thing that you need to remember is having white privilege doesn't make you a bad person, but denying that it exists is extremely detrimental to societal growth. No one is telling you that having white privilege means you've never struggled, or that you are racist, or that you've never worked hard for what you have. But it's very important that we take the time now to look inward and reflect and do some research.
I said I'm tired of being peaceful and tired of being calm. You know, they've been going to war on us for over 400 years, so I ain't peaceful. I ain't no protester. I'm violent.
Kigali. She is the founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto and has said some really just emotional, inspirational things about white people. Whiteness is not humanness. White is subhuman. White people are a genetic defect of blackness. So